Hello, my name's Richard Curran Trussell, philosophy faculty. We're going to be bringing philosophical insight today to a really interesting topic. I think you'll agree with me, artificial intelligence. And we'll have about 3 segments here looking at it from different angles. The concept of artificial intelligence, we have a few graphics here we'll throw up, embraces a whole lot of things, and we're going to kind of simplify it to talk about the most interesting things. And I think a lot of us tap into this whole topic through movies, and there have been a lot of movies from Star Wars where robots were cute and our friends and things like that. More recent films, Chappie, where the robot was part of our dysfunctional family, and then the movie Her, where Joaquin Phoenix, the character, says, yes, I'm seeing somebody now, and she's an operating system. Then we go to iRobot, and a little darker view of robots here, maybe they will do harm. And so the robot Sonny that becomes self-aware does just that. So we would show you a shot from the Terminator, but that would be too scary. So we'll just go with this one. Then we get to another sort of movie recently, Transcendence. And this is the story of a brilliant scientist who is dying. He was shot, he's mortally wounded, and his consciousness is transferred up to a supercomputer. And it's a powerful movie. Then we have another picture of, not of a movie, but of Stephen Hawking. And why on earth is he here? Well, he thought that the danger of strong artificial intelligence, such that artificial intelligence would become self-aware, was so pressing and real. This is what he actually said. If human beings hope to compete with the rising tide of artificial intelligence, they'll have to improve themselves through genetic engineering. Science can increase the complexity of our DNA, and we're going to have to do this as human beings. In contrast to our intellect, computers double their performance every 18 months. So Hawking's said, and other physicists agree, that there's a clear and present danger that the machines will become self-aware and take over the world. We're going to be playing with some of that and looking at the ethics and the metaphysics of that. Metaphysics is an area of philosophy that talks about the ultimate reality. And so we're going to be talking about intellect, mind, and consciousness, and what is it grounded in reality? Our brains, things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Joanny and Matt with us today to introduce some of these concepts. And you guys can just jump in and start, give us some key terms, some conceptual tools to work with.
So the groundwork, I suppose, would be the basic ideas of what is reality for us. The 2 arguments are dualism and physicalism. As probably assumed by the name, dualism means there are 2 sides to existence. One is the physical side, which is our bodies, and then the non-physical side, which could be a spirit or a soul. And this is something that's fundamentally human to us. It's something that gives us our personality, our beliefs, all that sort of thing. Physicalism is the idea that everything we are is one or the other. And in this circumstance, it's all physical, which is the idea that everything we are is up here. I only remember my name because of some area in my brain. And the advancements in brain research and such help to support this idea. And psychologists have found, through lobotomies and other case studies such as Phineas Gage, a spike was driven through his head and his frontal lobe was destroyed. And it had a predictable and noticeable change in his personality, which sort of helps with the idea that everything we are is physical. So how does this pertain to AI? The idea is that if everything we are is physical and our brain is just this complicated, supremely complicated computer, it's a computer and a machine nonetheless. So couldn't we also program a machine or a computer to also be as complex as a human mind and simulate human actions or actually gain their own sentience, leading into the discussion of AI?
So, but AI, isn't that computer and silicone chips and things like that? Whereas we've got the biological, we studied something else. Functionalism, what is, Joanny, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Functionalism basically being kind of like physicalism in a sense, but it's more separated into like things and the function of those things, such as I think pain is like a big example of it. Everybody knows the concept of pain as a thing, but pain to the individual would be a little different. With the things that pain do to us would be individual, subjective to each person.
So yeah, but that would almost go with the dualism thing that you know, how can a machine actually feel pain? It can. Obviously, we have machines that can that have sensors on them.
Right.
But that subjective awareness is.
But would it be the same kind of pain humans feel?
Okay.
In a sense, a good example of that would be like flying, for example. Birds fly, but airplanes fly too, but they don't necessarily fly the same way.
Yeah.
So the same idea would be taken over to artificial intelligence. Could they actually feel the same things we feel, the way we feel them, or is it a completely separate
Interesting question, but
idea?
You know, just more basic. It's still a machine. There's so many things that a computer can't do. A smartphone, yeah, a smartphone can, you know, we can talk with Siri and things like that. But you know, aren't there several things that a computer can't do that a human can? So aren't we just kind of playing around with this topic, or how serious are we on this? What's happening in the technology that you know of?
Well, we're finding that nowadays a lot of things that we thought were originally innately human, such as a creative mind, art, music, robots are already replacing humans in that aspect. It's there's a weak and a strong AI theory. The weak AI theory is that all we're ever going to have is computers that can only mimic everything, and they're only able to do what's programmed into them.
Like Siri.
Yes, Siri.
Okay.
Basic
That's a very good
algorithms
example.
with basic concepts.
Yeah, basic things. They're only able to do what they're programmed to do. The strong AI theory means that they could actually have consciousness and learn for themselves and act on themselves and have free will, similar to us, something that's innately human, but
They could come up with unique answers for our questions. Like, for example, like the whole Siri thing. She's a weak AI, meaning I can ask her a very specific type of question and she'll give me a very specific type of answer. A stronger AI, they're trying to make technology to the point where you can ask them.
Okay, we're going to have to come to a break right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, thanks for introducing the subject.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a minute.
I'm interested in biology,
Here's that information.
Accounting,
Communication,
chemistry, and business.
phlebotomy,
Night classes.
zookeeping,
Animation.
reanimation.
At PPCC, what you'll find will surprise you.
It's one of the finest quality automobiles ever made.
Does it fire missiles?
No, it doesn't.
No problem. I'll take it. But I only want to pay this much.
As you can see, the architect is passionate about the design.
Does it have a missile silo?
It doesn't?
Fine, I'll take it. But I only want to pay this much.
We offer more than 200 programs at 4 convenient campuses throughout the Pikes Peak region.
We have night, online, and weekend classes, so if you need flexibility, we've got it.
Do you have... You know what? It's perfect. I'll take it.
Great.
But I only want to pay this much.
It's half that.
Fantastic.
Half.
Sign us both up.
You don't need to be a secret agent to find quality at a great price. Pikes Peak Community College.
I'm interested in biology,
Here's that information.
Accounting,
Communication,
paralegal,
nursing, political science, phlebotomy,
night classes.
Zookeeping.
Animation.
Reanimation.
PPCC. What you'll find will surprise you.
Welcome back to segment 2 here. We were sort of finishing up our conversation last time, and one thing that the point that I think was being made was that every time someone says computers will never be able to do this one thing, 6 months later they're able to do it. Then the bar is raised, and it seems like computers keep advancing. Whether or not strong AI self-awareness happens, we have weak IA right here. So Matt is back here, and Chris Lentz is joining us now, and they're going to talk a little bit about, well, as we see here, this is one of our, not a Pikes Peak Community College student, but this is Baxter the robot. And Baxter is part of our programs, and you see Baxter does routine assembly line work that he's programmed to do. If you want to take a step up from Baxter, you go to automobile assembly lines now that are doing very, very complicated things. And then if we step it up from there, Google has come up with a driverless car. And beyond that, their development, and I think it's already a done deal, there's driverless trucks now. And we're going to kind of explore in this segment what the economic impact will be and what the long-range view of human labor and what's our meaning and purpose here on Earth with this going. So you want to, one of you, Chris, why don't you start us off with some of what you know about where AI is now in
absolutely.
the economy.
It's a great, interesting topic, and it's going to be crucial for our future as the economy of the United States and the world. You mentioned Baxter the robot, and you mentioned the abilities of manufacturing robots. Companies are looking for fixes and stay competitive economically with their profits using these weak AI machines, because they mimic and do the ability that the humans can do, but at a more efficient rate, which is interesting. Experts predict that in the near future, that weak AI is actually a part of us, but it'll get cheaper and it'll be more integrated into companies. Therefore, we know the Great Depression had 33% unemployment. They're predicting north of that. Why? Because they say that Americans and globally maybe we're not ready to take a back seat to some of these robots, like the horses in the car. The horse was main transportation before the car came around. Yeah. The car pretty much made them unemployable. So now, horses, but not used for transportation. Likewise for these machines, it goes to say for the white-collar skilled laborers, even the blue-collar skilled laborers, and the minimal skilled laborers, they're going to be almost outsourced to these robots, or weak AI as we put it, in the near future.
Matt, you've done some research on this too.
Yeah, one thing, I suppose some interesting things is the IBM computer Watson. Some people might know him because he completely stomped the two most famous or well-known or most successful human Jeopardy members. And that was apparently just a drop in the bucket for what IBM hopes Watson will accomplish. It's actually, its final goal is to become the greatest doctor in the world. And it's already being put into effect with lung cancer treatment, talking with doctors. And one thing that's obviously helpful since it's a computer is that AI don't make mistakes. Humans, we're fallible. We get sleepy, we get tired, we miss some things. Robots can go through unbelievable amounts of data instantly, and can pull all the vital information from that. And not only that, if it's a global database, the internet for instance, it can pull information from somewhere in China or some other country and be able to correlate that to its own research and learn from all the other actions of all the other robots in the world.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you bring that up because Google, the self-driving car, Google pitched it as in, we don't have to be perfect, we just have to make less mistakes than human drivers. Last year, over 40,000 people were killed in car accidents. It's interesting. Why they had the Google self-driving car, there have been no deaths, and they hundreds of thousands of miles in California. So it's interesting to bring that up. There's the weak AI is pitching, weak AI companies that build these robots, cars, are pitching that they're not perfect, but they just have to beat out their human competitors. So it's interesting.
It's kind of sad that we're such poor competitors with
Absolutely.
weak AI.
Yeah.
And you know, we have vending machines now, and we can think that, my gosh, you can, after seeing what they can do in factories, you could see fast food restaurants as a supersized vending machine that's completely automated. And so if you start talking about all the long-distance freight drivers, you know, on the highways and the semis.
Taking the risk out.
Yeah, taking the risk out.
And it's cheaper too. All it takes is a little bit of electricity to run robots like Baxter, as opposed to minimum wage for a human worker.
Yeah. Google is lobbying the state of California to allow them to take the steering wheel and the pedals out of their driverless cars, because they're saying they're so good, we don't need that.
Yeah, unions, some brought up a good point. Unions, they could try to fight this movement, but it's not going to work because the companies are getting more profitable. Therefore, I would ask you as a CEO in a very tough economy, if you have to make cuts somewhere, would you lay off all your people, or would you turn to artificial intelligence as weak AI? So it's an interesting question.
Yeah. So in the past, you know, the economy has generated new jobs, more high-tech jobs. And so what do you think about this? Do you think they'll just mushroom jobs to replace these hundreds of thousands of jobs that will be lost with the robots doing the work? I
think it's going to take time. Personally, if you look through history, we have adapted, we overcome, and jobs have been created that weren't seen in the past. I think that's going to take an effect in a scenario like this, but it's going to take time. I don't think people will be prepared for it, but there will be new jobs created that we can't foresee now thanks to technology.
I bet you're glad you're at Pikes Peak Community College. Maybe we should sign up for a robotics class too.
Absolutely,
I don't know.
absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. It's the way the world's going. You have to either go with it or get left behind.
And
what about the military? Any applications? I guess we're seeing.
well, yeah, it's seen nowadays already with UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, or I don't know what the exact name is, but the idea is that it's just a robot flying a drone of some sort that can drop a bomb on some location, and it minimizes the risk for human people. All they have to do is send one of those things off, and the person who's pulling the trigger is miles behind the enemy lines, so they're safe. There's no casualties. And well, they're trying to see how much more unemployable humans can be, I suppose.
How much unemployable humans
Absolutely.
can be. Well, that's a lot to think about. So in our next segment, we're going to wind it down now, but in our next segment, we're going to kind of go back with the strong AI and look at some of the ethical components. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
It's one of the finest quality automobiles ever made.
Does it fire missiles?
No, it doesn't.
No problem. I'll take it. But I only want to pay this much.
As you can see, the architect is passionate about the design.
Does it have a missile silo?
It doesn't.
Fine, I'll take it. But I only want to pay this much.
We offer more than 200 programs at 4 convenient campuses throughout the Pikes Peak region.
We have night, online, and weekend classes, so if you need flexibility, we've got it.
Do you have... You know what? It's perfect. I'll take it.
Great.
But I only want to pay this much.
It's half that.
Fantastic.
Half.
Sign us both up.
You don't need to be a secret agent to find quality at a great price. Pikes Peak Community College.
I'm interested in biology.
Here's that information.
Accounting,
Communication,
Paralegal.
nursing,
Political science. Phlebotomy.
Night classes.
zookeeping,
Animation.
reanimation.
No.
At PPCC, what you'll find will surprise you.
Welcome back for our third segment, and we're going to kind of run with this idea that strong artificial intelligence is coming. It's already here, but it's definitely in our future. And we're going to look at some of the deeper philosophical and even the ethical questions surrounding that. And anyway, we got a few graphics here. You know, this is sort of a funny one, but if once the machines become sentient, will they be our slaves? Will they be our servants, vacuuming our house, lighting our cigarettes? Or will they look to us kind of as their God, because, you know, we are the human creators and we created them? Will the robots worship us, you know? Or will it evolve into a partnership, you know, some kind of equality? There are a lot of different possibilities, and you folks are going to discuss some of how the human race might work through these issues. Given, we're just going to assume for sake of discussion that the machines, the computers, have become sentient, self-aware. So with us are Rachel and Mackenzie, and what do you guys think about this?
I think we have decided it can go several different ways. One is that we treat them as slaves and we keep them on a lower class, very minimal rights, keep them under control, as most people would probably put it. Or it could turn out that they're programmed to be happy to serve us, and it doesn't become too much of an issue with uprisings and a lot of what we see in like sci-fi movies. Or it could be reverse, where they think that, you know, they're better than us, and it might turn to where we become slaves or robots.
Okay, which way is it going to go? I don't know. Mackenzie, what are your thoughts?
I feel that robots could become servants and end up being like super nannies for children and everything if they become sentient. And giving them rights gives them a limit to how far they can go. If they have rights, they don't feel the need to overpower them, or that they aren't being treated as well as humans, or they could become pets and become part of a family.
Yeah, if they're programmed to be happy in the jobs they're doing, we wouldn't really have to worry about rights so much. I mean, they would be happy, you know, cleaning up after us, watching our kid. And, you know, if they can do it better than we can, you know, somebody watching your children while you're gone 24/7, you know, that would be a very valuable thing. It'd be almost part of the family. I would rest, I would sleep easier at night knowing that there was a nanny bot, you know, taking care of my kids 24/7. And if they're happy doing this, I really don't have to worry about anything about how we necessarily treat them, turn them off and on, oil change every 5,000 miles or something like that. We're all happy, right? But you're saying what?
If robots are sentient, and if they're capable of learning and experiencing new things, why wouldn't they be capable of deciding that we deserve better than this? We are better than this. So by giving them rights, regardless of whether they're happy in their position or not, allows them to act comfortably within their realm of existence without thinking beyond what else there is.
How do you think human beings will respond when Nannybot says, I want to raise, or I want to do something else besides take care of your kids, or I have other interests? I mean, that's going to be a shock to, especially if I, you know, put down good money to
Probably
buy
take them
nanny.
to robot therapy.
Robot therapy.
Yeah.
I'll be in therapy too, I think. Right? So.
I think it's going to reboot. Largely depend on the person as well, as far as what happens to robots. I wouldn't be surprised if we had laws on how you could treat your robot necessarily if they become self-aware and, you know, have a conscience, as far as we're concerned, that would come into effect. Like we have animal cruelty laws. I wouldn't be surprised if there's robot cruelty laws in the future either.
This way we could prevent robot fights, like dog fights, because that sounds like a bad idea.
They're already on TV. Robot. You've seen the robot wars, you know, running into each other, and so that could be the new sport. You know, robots fighting each other, and if they're sentient, there's some profound ethical issues right there.
I think one of the questions is, if they're sentient and they're fighting, can they develop their own moral code? And if so, how does that affect us?
It's true. If they become to the point where they start to learn that there might be something better out there than just to serve humans, that's where we get like the uprising issue. But also, if they decide to have their own police force and get hold of weapons, who knows what kind of weapons we have in the future, what would happen as far as, would they just develop their own communities and just want to be away from people, or would they want to reverse it? Because we saw in the future, when whites were afraid of letting their slaves go, they were afraid that they were going to come back and murder and rape them, and that was really just the whites seeing themselves displayed, because when the slaves were free, they didn't do anything but move to try and find a better life.
Well, that's an interesting concept. We project onto other human beings. We can't even get along with each other, and slavery, racism, and things like that. And the very concept of our machines becoming self-aware and wanting rights, it's really hard to kind of program. And I think we also program all our shadow side. This is Carl Jung's term. All of the greed and worry and fear that's inside us, we see outside of ourselves. And so I think a lot of people would be, maybe legitimately or not, afraid of the robots. And then the question is, what happens if they keep evolving? As Stephen Hawking says, they will develop faster. The singularity, when machines and human beings are at parity, the idea is that the machines will keep going on. And so maybe we have to worry about our rights and have special protections for human beings so that we're not the second-class citizens, let alone, they're slaves or servants. Worse yet, what's the Matrix? We're in some pods and they're taking our electricity to run their cities in mainframe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if once we saw that they were maybe going to pass us in evolution, like Hawking's mentioned, altering our DNA. I don't think that's out of sight. Right now, I'm actually part of a study that's trying to alternate the DNA of humans so that you don't have asthma or allergy symptoms. So I don't think trying to better our health there's not much of a bigger step to better evolved than, say, a robot later on in the future.
Yeah, and my gosh, maybe they would. I think the fear is there'll be the Terminator bots or things like that. But maybe humanity is evolving, human being 2.0, where we'll finally get along together, and maybe we can get along with the machines too. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a tough one. But,
a lot of variables.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank both of you for bringing up some of these profound ethical issues, and the whole question of human identity and what does it mean to be a conscious being comes up here really strong. And there's so many issues. If our beliefs, our values, our hopes and dreams, our very sense of self-awareness is grounded in physicality, then it's, I think, a foregone conclusion that sooner or later artificial intelligence will become sentient. If the dualists are right, maybe there's this magic ingredient called self-awareness and mind that will never be replicated. We really don't know. Thank you for being with us, and